Okay. All right, Matthew, welcome to episode 21 of the Performance Advantage podcast.
Holy.
And welcome. You're here.
Yeah, in Rotorua.
Yeah, I love it here.
I do love Rotorua, actually. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
It's a mountain bike mecca. It definitely
is. MTB, PhD, like hub. No, it's not the hub, really.
No, it's not. But the reason I'm here is for the New Zealand Mountain Bike Hub camp.
Yeah.
So doing a bit of coaching for that. And yeah, it's awesome. I'm giving talks kind of throughout the day. And then, there's some other coaches that, split it up and we talk about nutrition and mind skills training, which isn't my area. So I'm learning a lot too. And then today I got to talk about building a season's training plan for mountain bikers. It was awesome.
And you're saying the parents are more interested in the kids? No,
they like the other coaches. They loved that. So yeah, it's just so no parents in this one. I think the parents are pretty keen to get involved. But yeah, everyone I think was enjoying the how to build a season thing. We talked about easy training and
our favorite.
Yeah, and so when you explain it the right way, people are like, "Oh yeah, well, I can get faster by not going hard every day."
Yeah,
like, oh, that actually makes sense. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. So another 2 days of that, and we obviously get out for some riding. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Getting full back in the swing of training.
Yeah,
definitely 120 Ks last week of running. Barely any time for the bike.
Yeah,
bit of time for work.
Yeah,
bit of time for working on the endurance training hub actually. Matthew.
Yeah. How's that going?
Good. Yeah, a few more members. I'm getting some T-shirts. They've been ordered.
Cool.
Oh man, have you had stuff made up before?
Yeah, I had like a small batch of T-shirts made, and I have riding clothes made.
Yeah, I've got some kit. Yeah, I've got a couple different cycling kits made up as well, but it just takes a long time.
Yeah,
like the proofs, and then you send it away, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't have those sizes." And
yeah,
did that happen to you?
I mean, I just I have one logo on a black top. It's not hard. I'm like, I could make this myself and do the proofs up myself, but why is this taking so long? But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You want your own kit and your own T-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, so I had one, the Performance Advantage running stuff was just the logo on a black T-shirt, like my sponsor Selming, Swedish running company, they just printed them up. So that was all good. But then I wanted to stand out a bit more. So I've got these super sick designs for the Endurance Training Hub members.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and then with the new logo and new color schemes and things, got to mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to bring something a bit new to the running scene rather than just a logo on a T-shirt.
Okay. I'm imagining something weird, but yeah,
I'll leave it to your imagination.
What? Yeah, I'll just we'll have to put a photo up when they're done. Let's do it that way.
Yeah. What else? Training, just going. The 100K is coming around quick, man. It's about 8 weeks now.
Yeah.
So really picking it up. Feeling good though, and so yeah, I'm happy with the way it's progressing with everything. How's your training? You training much? You don't train.
No, I don't.
You're a full fun athlete.
No, yeah, fun. I did. I took 2 days off this week, which I haven't done in a really, really long time. It was raining and I was super busy. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna take 2 days off, so I did.
Yeah.
Since I'm not training, I don't feel like I ever need a rest week, which is maybe isn't the best thing to do. I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. It was nice to have 2 days off. And what I did actually instead of riding is I spent some time rebuilding my suspension on my bike. So we were on the phone while I did it.
Yeah.
We were talking. I was like, hey, I just finished rebuilding my fork. It was a pretty smooth process actually. So I've always rebuilt RockShox stuff, but now I have Fox suspension, and I rebuilt that. And I took it apart, and it was just full of mud.
Really?
Yeah.
Really,
yeah,
man. I haven't done anything to mine.
Yeah,
I've only had the bike a year, but
yeah,
living in Rotorua, it's probably.
Yeah, well, that's worth a a couple of years of riding. So yeah, I was surprised, and we rode today with the hub camp, and it just felt so much better. It was like night and day. Took me like half an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff's pretty important.
Yeah. Speaking of recovery, like I knew, so it's been 6 weeks now from coming back from like no running, and my break, and then getting back into it up to 120 Ks. And in my plan in my head, I was like, this week will be easier. But then I was like, actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I could just kick on, you know, and we're Wednesday now, and this morning's run, like my chest hurt. So first of all, this is I didn't tell you this, but I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. So I wasn't. It was, it can just happen. It was my intercostal muscles. I must have slept wrong, and they just sort of like seized up. It was kind of scary, but I like got the new Garmin, so it's got oxygen saturation, heart rate, and stuff.
Okay, so you knew that like
I was checking, my vitals were fine.
Yeah.
And then I was planning on like an hour and a half, and then after that happened at about 15 minutes, just after my warm up, and I was like, damn, like I need to chill out this week and then go with the original plan. But when you're going well, like you don't want to have to, like I just did 100, I'd progressed consistently. Yeah. And then it was like, I knew I needed to chill out, and then I'd do my next 6-week block and be like, I'll get so much more fitter.
Yeah. Well, maybe you need a coach.
Yeah.
We've been talking about getting you a coach for a long time, but that chest stuff, like your heart hurt kind of thing, there's nothing to mess with. Like, I'm not sure, like 2 weeks ago at the Andorra Cross Country World Cup, the leader just pulled over, right? And he let other riders by. And the reason he pulled over is because his heart rate was like at 230 beats per minute.
Really?
Yeah. So he was leading the World Cup at altitude. So that probably had something to do with it. He's going really hard. Andre Sink. And he just pulled over, and, group passed him, and he got 10th.
Yeah.
And like I've seen some weird things happen to my heart rate, and like if I do a race or something, my heart rate's still over 200 beats per minute. And it kind of always has been. And one time I was doing a trial in the lab for one of our PhD mates, Joe, and where we were like in the heat chamber exercising, and we had to do a time trial for like 20 minutes and super, super hot.
Yeah, and humid.
Yeah. And my chest hurt for like 2 weeks.
I remember that. So you wouldn't stop complaining about it.
I actually thought I was going to die.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And we were like, oh man, it's such a pussy.
Yeah. And it hurt. Like it felt like I had a cramp in my heart.
And you got real angry at Joe about it.
Yeah, well,
for making you ride hard.
After that, I didn't do any more lab tests. That was the last one I ever did. I was like, forget it. I've done like 1,000 of these already. I know what the result is going to be. Like I've done enough of these. I know what the result is. Can I just tell you? But yeah, so that was my last one.
Yeah.
My chest hurt really bad. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. I had my heart checked out after I went to, if you've listened back, if you've been one of the regular listeners, I had to go to hospital with dehydration during my marathon build-up. So as part of the follow-up to that, I went and got my heart checked out. And so it was all good. So that gave me a lot of peace of mind as well. Like I had it professionally checked about, 2 months ago, and everything was fine.
Yeah, you're all good. I remember you telling me that. I'm not sure if we said this on the podcast, but I was like, oh, did they tell you had a bundle branch blockage?
Yeah.
I was like, ha, 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 funny. Like, did they tell you that? And you're like, yeah. How'd you know? I was like, oh, I didn't actually know, but that's what they told me when I had my heart checked.
Yeah, one of those fitness-based.
Yeah, I actually can't remember what it is, but...
It's not actually, because it sounds like a bundle branch blockage, and I was thinking arterial block or something along those lines, but it's more to do with the way the nerve impulses.
Yeah, it's the timing kind of thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't actually a big deal.
No.
There's no actual blockage.
No.
It's just an enlarged section of the neural transmitter.
Yeah, it's just like a developed heart. Like they just don't see it. Like, because most people that come in with heart pain are like, they're in trouble. kind of thing. That's what they see. So
yeah, well, the machine picked it up automatically when I was in the hospital, and there's the machine's like, oh, your heart rate's too low. I'm like, really? I think it's all right.
It gets lower, bro.
Yeah, when I'm not like super fanged and dehydrated.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been up to, man.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, I have a .com now.
What?
Yeah, I have a .com for smart MTB training.
Yeah.
.com, obviously. Yeah, so it's almost ready to launch. So I'm getting pretty excited, and it has all my training plans I've ever made, and some, and all kinds of extra stuff. So I'm getting pretty amped to launch that, and it should be within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like you can just share all your information and stuff, and not feel like you're giving too much away.
Well,
because they're paying for it.
Well, the thing is, like, I love working with athletes, but working with athletes one-on-one takes a ton of time. So I can only do like if I'm working with more than 8 or 10 athletes, I feel like each athlete isn't getting what they really need. And the only other option is to kind of, have a training plan online that they can get, and that's a one-off thing. So like what I'm working on now and what you have is like, they have access to everything. If they want to talk to us, they can. It's pretty good, and it's just a way for us to help more athletes.
Yeah, and also it's hard with the one-off training plan, like that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been contacted from my one-off plans. Whereas like with the Endurance Training Hub, you can, like, there's a lot of different plans, like different levels. An athlete can see like which one they are.
Yeah.
They're able to choose, and then you can move it around in your like the online like calendar thing in there.
Yeah. So you can pick a training plan and you can apply it to your.
Almost every member has emailed me.
Yeah.
Said, hey, how does this look? And then I can easily just see their training calendar and move the workouts around, which is pretty simple off of a already pre-made plan.
Yeah.
There's not the level of sort of, one-on-one specificity there is like other athletes, but it's awesome. It's a great, and to find out more about it, like listen back a few episodes ago where we
interviewed the founder of the platform. The guy that made it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
He's based we're both in New Zealand. He's based in Auckland, coincidentally enough.
Yeah, like an international web platform, and he's not too far away. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So last episode, Matt, got a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And that pretty much leads on to the follow-up, which is this episode.
Yeah.
But you had whole bunch of comments.
Yeah.
You said you'd read them out.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like thinking back on, I shared on MTB PhD Facebook. I was like, yeah, here's our latest podcast episode. Check it out. And then I posted some photos of me from the 24-hour world.
Yeah.
So this is, 2006, me racing, and Facebook would have just come out, I guess. And I had those on Facebook. But I was like, saying my journey through 24, like ultra endurance and stuff, and how I probably wouldn't do it again, because I've done it. And I talked about how I had permanent nerve damage in my fingers. I still can't feel the tips of my fingers, and how, my mouth would be bleeding. I was like, in these races, my mouth would bleed. And I was like, surely I'm not the only one with these stories. So I was like, yeah, post up, your craziest story. And so I'll just read a few of them from Facebook. And what, is interesting for me, and Joel said that 24-hour races are making a comeback. So I actually thought that they were like gone forever and that no one actually did them.
Yeah.
But he said like there's this core scene that's, they do these same 24-hour races every year, and like some of them are super popular. He's like, yeah, you should come to this one, Hardcore 24 in Naples, New York. And he gave me the date. So I was like, I didn't say thanks for the invite. I probably should have, but I was like, I don't see myself ever doing that again. I know Joel, we used to ride together. So, so we have, so Steve left a comment. His biggest lesson was don't forget the butt cream. So, without getting too graphic, you can check it out if you want to read it, but he made it 14 hours before, he started to have trouble, and we'll just leave it at that, He started, then he continued, and he was standing the whole time, but he just couldn't sustain it, right? You just can't stand for another 10 hours. So he had to fly back home the next day and had to soak his pants in the shower, and he couldn't sit down or wear tight pants for days because his pants would get stuck.
Yeah.
So
stuck.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty extreme.
That actually reminds me of a story, not that graphic, but like I'm not a guy who gets tan. Like
You're a burner.
I'm a burner.
Yeah,
I'm a burner, especially in the New Zealand ozone.
Yeah.
So I was doing a big swim set when I was training for a triathlon, like a big one, like a 2-hour swim set, and outdoor 50-meter pool. You know, I turn up at maybe 7:30, 7 a.m. even in the summer. Outdoor 50-meter. You know, the sun's barely out. Maybe it's cloudy or whatever, and I'm in there for 2 hours, and then the cloud burns off, and I don't think about it. I'm just in my Speedos.
Oh boy.
And so there's parts, you know, that back of the thigh, upper thigh.
Yeah, it's sensitive.
It doesn't get a lot of sun. And that was excruciating to sit down for like a week. You know when it goes beyond red and it goes purple?
I do not.
Okay. Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Sunburn sucks. That's why I always wear sunscreen in New Zealand for sure. I guess the other comment was John said he was talking about the Dirty Kanza, which is a 200-mile gravel race.
Yeah, if you want to see a cool footage on that, EF First Racing, Education First, the Pro Tour team, some of those guys did it, Taylor Finney and stuff, and there's a really cool video on their experience of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, on YouTube, because it was just like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I used to ride with the guy that started that race, actually. But yeah, so John was talking about the Dirty Kanza, and he says it's the best race he's ever done. So it took him 15 hours, and he's never seen so much carnage.
So he was right up there. That's pretty quick.
John's pretty quick,
Yeah,
John's pretty quick. So yeah, like he says, a lot of it's mental, and you need to make sure that you don't have any mechanicals. So he's done it 3 times, and 2 times it went well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which time was the bad one, but it sounds like he did pretty good this year.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to me how like those kind of events, like they're gonna suck, but people love them. Like they're just addicting.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like I was talking to someone about the 100 miles running. So I've run 100 Ks, and I remember when I was like, I do not want to keep going. I just want to see if I can do 100 Ks. That was sort of why I was doing it. Needed some new motivation to train. I was sort of I didn't have the time availability for triathlon and Ironman anymore. So I was like, I'll run 100 Ks.
So that takes you less time to train for than a triathlon.
Yeah, definitely. There's only one sport, Yeah. And so I did the 100 Ks, and I was like, it went all right, but not great. Like I talked about it, fell apart, super struggled.
Well, that was the one where you had a power meter and you weren't looking at the power meter.
When I didn't understand it fully at the time.
Yeah.
So then I went back, the year after, and had a really good race and paced it well. I was able to speed up at the end kind of thing. And then, but then was just off the podium. So then that was the next year I wanted to do it, and then got on the podium. So now, this year, I was thinking maybe I should do 100 miles. Why? Why do I want to run that far? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a bit far.
So not just yet.
Okay. So you're not writing it off.
I'm going to do it. I really want to do it. It's just it's not going to be a super fun experience, is it?
No.
That sense of achievement is just the pinnacle. And to work for it is cool. But yeah, I don't know what is the driving motivator to run for 20 hours.
I mean, you're the kind of guy that would do a PhD.
Yeah, that was way worse.
You need some endurance for that, right? So you just like those kind of things that suck when you're doing them, and then when you're done, you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, type 2 fun.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So last episode,
it
we
was a
talked
good one.
Ultra
I loved
endurance.
it.
It was popular. Then I got one of the questions, comments that came back to me was like, well, how long should I run for my long run?
Yeah.
And I have some theories around it. And in my training plans, I have like a running range, like the ready-made ones, because obviously if you're coming in and then I'm coming in, I'm getting the same plan, we're going to be running different speeds. And so a lot of it's based off of heart rate, which is individual, but then also the long run needs to be long. Like you're going to run 100 Ks and it's going to take you, average person, 15 hours plus kind of thing. Like you can't be running 2 hours every other weekend.
Yeah, like we talked about it in like, how to train for those kind of things a bit last week. We're like, you need to do at least one session, like training session that's, ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something like a 100K run or, a 24-hour mountain bike race, you can't be like doing that in your training.
Yeah, so how long? And I rang you up and asked you, like, what do you base it off? Like, because I was worried, what I always try and do is base everything off of some sort of scientific principle, or physiology, or some stress response that is going to induce like a favorable adaptation. And then I was worried, why am I saying 6 hours in this instance, regarding the question? Why am I not saying 5 hours, 43 minutes, or 6:15?
We used to talk about this a lot, actually. But you hit Google, and what did you find in Google?
Nothing. So I went into Google to see what are other people basing their recommendations off. Nothing. There was 2/3 your estimated duration, 2/3 your distance, at least 50 Ks for 100 Ks. There was no more than 3 hours is fine. Like there's a lot of stuff out there. But it was some of it, and it had attempted to sort of justify their recommendation. But then when I went through it, I went into Google Scholar to try and get some science on it. And that was even pretty hard. But I really found two, I guess, defining reasonings or principles that you could base how long you should run or ride, I guess. But running, in my instance, a long run, depending on how fit you are. And what it came down to is it doesn't actually matter how long you're going to run, like how long the event's going to take you. It more matters on what your training load is at one point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like you train at this level consistently, right? And because that's all you can manage, because you have kids, you have a job, and you have like this car that you've been working on in your garage, and you like shine the paint every night. So you're busy, right? So you only have so much time to train.
Yeah.
And you do that every week.
Yeah.
But you still want to do a 100K race.
Yeah.
Because just for reasons, right?
Yeah.
So all you have to do is, maybe do one super big run.
So there's the longest run, and then there's your long run. So what I mean by this is like what we talked about a lot last week. It's like you need that crazy session. Like if you're going to be out there 15 hours, you need to know what it's going to be like to be tired and be on your feet for 8 hours. Like just to understand what your body's doing, what your clothes do. You're saying how like you would chafe on the top tube just from balancing your bike. You'd never experience that 3 hours kind of thing. So you need to do that. So the longest run then we agreed was mental, with very small portion physical, because you can't expect to get fit or like ridiculously huge improvement in fitness by going like long once. Like if you did it every single weekend or like twice a week, then it's part of your training. Like that's going to incorporate some level of stress adaptation. But just doing it once, like if you run 2 hours every weekend and then you run 8 hours, you can't expect to get 4 times the benefit from it.
I mean, no, if it's that much bigger than what you normally do, you're just going to get pretty tired from it,
Yeah.
aren't you?
But you also need to do it. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's what we're saying. Like, it's not physical or physiological. Like, it's just mental in that sense. It's like, I just need to go out there at whatever pace I can sort of sustain, preferably around your goal pace on similar terrain, and test it all out. But then it came back to, so then there's the long run. You also need to train for a 15-hour event. This is sort of what I was basing around 15 to 24 hours kind of thing. But not no one, but almost no one has the time to run 3 hours every day, 5 hours in the weekend, 8 hours in the weekend. So where do you find out how long you should be running? Because a training plan may say one thing, but that could be based on a huge array of principles that aren't specific to you. Yeah.
I think we used to argue about this a lot, actually. This was back when I first started my PhD, and I had come from, my experiences and my knowledge background. You had come from your own. And, remember I had a coffee machine in my office, an espresso machine?
Yes.
Not Nespresso, espresso, like proper one. Like, it was pretty sick. And we would just make coffees.
Yeah.
And I had a couch in my office.
Yeah.
This is my university office. Like, this was awesome. Couch and a coffee machine. So we would talk about stuff, usually like training and things like that. And, at that point, I had just worked with Seamus Powell, and he had won 2 national titles. He won a 100-mile mountain bike race. He had an amazing season on a super low volume training. Like, he was training like I guess super low volume for a professional. Like, some of his long weeks were, pretty long. And but in general, he was doing high intensity, low volume. And to me, since he was doing so well on it, I was like, no, Will, like, this is how you train. Like, and I remember one of the things I said to you was, well, what brings about an adaptation? Is it duration or is it intensity? And you were like, and I said, well, it's intensity. That's exactly what I said. And you're like, no, it's not. It's volume. And what I went on to do is figure out that actually that is true. And the only reason that it was working for Seamus is, he was super fit, and we were measuring his everything, like his threshold power and everything like that. And he was super fit, but this low volume training was working for him just because of all this massive amount of overtraining and stuff like that he had done for years and years. So he was it was almost like a multi-year periodization kind of thing, that now this was working for him. It's the same things that Sam Shaw said when we did his interview, talking about how is he so good at enduro and XC. He's talking about how he used to train heaps, and then he got really fit by training only a little bit. It's like that multi-year periodization thing.
Yeah.
It goes back to this whole thing that actually you do need this volume to actually get fitter.
Yeah.
Like, you actually need it.
Yeah.
That's the only way for it to happen.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Kind of, for the available, time availability.
But it doesn't mean you can't be fit without ever doing volume.
So what the conclusion, like I put together, was you really had 2 things. You had your overall fitness level, and then you had your past training volume or load, right? So for me, I can run a marathon in 2 hours 40 or a bit quicker, right? So for me to run for 6 hours, like that's a large distance training load, because I'm running the whole entire time, and I can sustain like quite a high level of intensity. So 6 hours is huge. And what does that offer me in terms of fitness and gain? And how much does that go above my current training volume? So if I'm training 12 hours a week, and then I'm trying to run half of it as a long run, and I'm running the whole thing, that becomes like really stressful. So for me, in this instance, 6 hours is too much. just to do continuously if my training load's 12 hours, right? Because I'm at the point where I'm fit enough to be able to run that duration, but it's creating too much fatigue that I'm not really able to adapt to it, and it's not adding to my fitness. And in the end, like we said at the beginning, it's fitness that wins. Like the fitter you are, the faster you'll be able to run, or the longer you'll be able to run at a slower pace, and in the end, that will help you. So then if you go back to someone who's more like a 5-hour marathoner, and their predicted time or duration, for 100Ks is going to be more around that 15, 17 hours. And they're the person who's probably thinking, I need to run even longer, more consistently 6 hours. But again, we can look at their fitness level. So their fitness level is at a certain point because they're running 5 hours for a marathon. And if you are then to say, all right, now go for 8 hours.
Like we can calculate someone's fitness.
Yeah, so we can use, it was based off of the percentage of VO2 max.
Yeah.
Right. So VO2 max being like your maximal aerobic fitness state, essentially like your ceiling for endurance exercise.
Yeah.
So you got that ceiling. My ceiling's really high, and then I can operate at a certain percentage of that ceiling. So if I worked on my efficiency, I could work even higher, closer to that ceiling. And then the less fit you are, you sort of drop away. So for a marathon, about 80% of your VO2 max is what the general average runner can operate at. Once you start looking at, Kipchoge, who's going for the sub 2 hour, like he's getting closer to 90%. And he has a higher VO2 max. So those two things combined make him exceptionally fast. But anyway, like scientifically, mathematically, we can work out like a certain fitness level. And there's a 20% slowing down in your marathon pace versus your 100K pace.
So is this kind of across the board? Like
Yeah. So that's just you operate at 65% of VO2 max on average. Like scientifically, the studies have shown this is where people are operating. That's the sort of ceiling for the average 100K runner. And then we know that 80% for a marathon. So you got 80% and you got 65%. And that difference, although it only sounds like 15% in VO2 max, is actually a 20% slowing down in pace. So then when we look at that, because the average pace for a marathon, like a 5-hour marathon, is like 7-minute Ks. Yeah,
so you could almost walk that, couldn't you?
It's what people consider the limit of running.
Okay.
Slower than 7-minute Ks.
So this is average, right? So
yeah, so like I'm making like a lot of assumptions here, and this is taken from a large cohort over 100, 200, 300 runners. I think they took to elicit to get these numbers out. There's variation, but this is the average. So then from 7 minutes per K, if you're slowing down from that, you're getting at like 9 minutes per K.
And that is a walk, isn't it?
That is like
on average, like you're walking if you're doing
9 minutes.
Your marathon in this time.
Yeah.
You might be running sometimes, you might be stopped other times, but on average.
Yeah. Yeah. So then if you're a 5-hour marathon runner and you're wanting to run longer, do longer runs for your ultra, you have to slow down just because that's the physiology of it. You can't consistently hold that pace. And once you start slowing down, now you're starting to get to the point where you're not really able to run because it's too slow. And now you're not gaining enough fitness because there's not enough stress. So now you can go for 6 hours like I can, but there's too much stress for me. And then now there's not enough stress for a 5-hour marathon runner. And so in this instance, it's better for them to find a pace at probably around 3 hours for which they can run that entire duration, maybe even 2.5 or 2 to 4 hours, somewhere in there, where it's going to be enough that they can run, enough that they can still recover and still continue their training. And then that's going to be the same for me, enough that I can run at a good rate, but still incorporate enough other training throughout the week that I'm getting a consistent training load. And that'll get me fitter. And then, once a month, you can put in some larger ones for the like mental, physical training. Yeah. And then,
so what would you be aiming for then for yourself, duration wise, for your long run? For yourself. So you're going out for your longest run of the block. How long is that going to be? Are you still going to be aiming for that 6 hours, or are you going to cut it down?
Yeah. I'll aim for about 6 hours for me. And then like, I also know myself quite well, and I know beyond that 4-hour mark, I really start to deteriorate. So that block, but then that's also why it's very important to stress that level of the system.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember, for the 100 Ks I'm doing in a few weeks, that's going to take me somewhere between 8 and 9 hours. So 6 hours is like quite a large portion of that.
Yeah. So you're closer to that 2/3 recommendation that people always talk about.
Yeah. So you also then, that's like the fitness side of things to look at. Then when you look at the overall training load, the review of the literature shows the injury threshold for a runner. So this is really important. So that's 20 to 30%. So there's a like sort of one of the, what do you call it? Not flagship studies, but one of those
like a review.
There's one of those groundbreaking studies where it hadn't really been done before, and then they actually did it. They collected huge amount of data on 3 levels of training progression.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a pretty cool paper. You're writing your own article on the paper.
Yeah, kind of. But I'm also incorporating like the fitness side of things. They only did the training load.
Okay.
So they had 10%, 20 to 30%, and 30 and over 30% progression in training load. So, you've probably seen somewhere no more than 10%. Right. So they showed between above 10% and pretty much up to 30%, there was no real differentiation.
In injury.
Okay. But they didn't take into account fitness, and there was some, what would you say, skew or bias towards the less fit people with a lower training load. Like if I'm running 120 Ks a week or 100 miles a week or something, for me to increase 30% of that, if we're just looking at mileage, like that's going to be like an extra 45 Ks. Huge. It'd be like going 100 miles to 200 Ks or 160 to 200. That's huge. If someone's averaging 40 Ks a week and they increase by 30%, that's 12 Ks.
Yeah.
In the week.
Which isn't. It isn't.
It's like a 1 extra run kind of thing, like an extra hour and a bit.
But they're also less likely to get injured, right? Which is good. Like.
Yeah, for the increase. But we can look at that data as a whole and show that once you start getting closer to that 30% increase in your training load, then you're rolling the dice as to whether you're going to get injured.
Yeah. And
we know consistency is the key. Fitness is the winner on the day. So if that's going to impact your fitness, then it's not worth it. It's not worth doing that 30%. So that's where you can look back. What is my training load? And there's a whole various ways, like Strava gives you relative effort, I think, and TSS and training peaks, trip score, heart rates, Garmin.
Yeah, we talked about these.
So you can look at it, right, and go, what is that training load? What does it equate to? So let's say it's 3 1-hour runs during the week and a 2-hour run in the weekend. And then you just add 30% on that. So that training load is 100 units. Now you've got 130 units. Like, what is 30 units to you? That might be an extra hour of running. So that's not really going to help you get towards like 10 hours or something, is it?
Yeah, sure. So, but in terms of training load, you could be well on your way to getting more fit, couldn't you?
Yeah, yeah, you could. Yeah. So one of the things like that's worth looking at is if you're, you have that 100 units and it's 3 1 hour runs during the week and a 2 hour on the weekend, and you're thinking about jumping up to 6 hours, you really need to look at what you're doing in the week leading up to that weekend big run, because you're actually increasing your training load by like 50%. And the data shows like you really rolling the dice.
Yeah.
So there's those two things really, like that fitness level as to whether you're gaining fitness by doing this. And look, like we're completely ignoring enjoyment or just the fact that you love to be out in the woods for hours on end.
Yeah.
Or, this is just like I was trying to find a scientific reasoning behind the level of which you can increase your long run, or you should be running, and this is what I found.
So obviously someone who's looking up, if they're typing this into Google, they're obviously interested in running longer. So yeah, it won't appeal to everyone, but it obviously has its place.
Yeah. And a lot of it was also for me to make sure that my recommendations were accurate, or at least like they were founded on some sort of principle that wasn't going to cause someone to get injured.
Yeah.
Because one of the hardest parts, man, like writing these training plans that potentially we have no input into is the risk that someone overdoes it or underdoes it and just doesn't enjoy it. So I was trying to find a way that would allow someone to go like a decision tree. Like I have run this and I've run this long in the weekend, and your long run, say 2 to 4 hours. I've been doing 2 hours, so now the increase is 4 hours, not the 6 hour, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've always struggled with like picking, like, because what's a long ride? Is 4 hours long? Is 6 hours long? Is 8 hours long? It's like, I think for me, when I think about it, it comes down to a couple of things. And one of them is like, we only have so much time in the day, so if you're going to do a long ride or a long run, like 8 hours that's a pretty long time. Right.
Yes.
So like something normal that, someone would stick with is like a 4 or 6 hours for a long ride.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why not 10? And that was when I would get really annoyed at, high volume training. I was like, why not 12? Why don't you just never go to sleep? But yeah, we do only have so much time in the day, and we don't want to get injured. We just need enough volume to kind of bring out these stresses. And the timing of these long rides or runs, they need to be relative to our training, as he said, and they just need to be towards a goal, and with whatever that goal is. So if it's a mega long, then it needs to be a kind of a one-off mega long kind of thing. And if it's a normal long run or ride, then it needs to be something that you can do regularly.
Yeah, and start to increase some intensity within it.
Yeah,
as well. It is a hard one, and what I find really interesting when you come back to it is it's recovery, right? Why not ride for 10 hours every day? Why not run 6 hours every day? Like, you will get better. Like, just the physiology of it suggests like this is how you will, if you run more, if you do anything more with correct technique, like purposeful practice, you'll get fitter. You'll utilize oxygen, fat, carbohydrates, muscles become more dense, more mitochondria, everything. But you can't run 6 hours every single day and run at a certain level to elicit the right response. You'll just get slower and slower. If you don't get injured, you get more tired, horrible technique, and then by I don't know how long. Some people obviously can do these crazy like run across America kind of things.
But those kind of like, it's like tour riders that, in training, they'll do easy 150-mile rides.
Yeah.
Like that's going to take you 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you go back to Kieran's episode, we did 40 hours one week within his training camp.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And we included a lot of intensity, and it was like, gave him a huge boost, but he literally he was living with like a sports therapist, and he had those Normatec boots, he had spa, he had amazing nutrition. He did nothing, like nothing, and that's not sustainable. One, the stress on his body was like at his utmost limit, but also just he had to be mentally concentrating every single session, you know, and you can't do that all the time.
No, yeah, but it takes a long time to build up to that too.
Well, that's the 30% rule. Like you can look at what other people are doing, but you don't know their progression to get there.
Yeah, it needs to be relative to yourself, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about like someone, you know, maybe they can't run for 8 hours, and you know maybe you can't either. What about doing something low intensity like a hike or something like that? Do you think that has enough? Is there any way to build in stress in something like that?
It depends on what kind of runner you are, where your fitness level is. For me, to hike for 8 hours is definitely going to help in terms of like leg strength and stamina, but it's only going to help little because that percentage of VO2 max, that stress level at which I can hike for 8 hours is not going to be huge.
Yeah.
And walking is a lot different muscles than running. So like it will help, but only to a certain point.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, how much is swimming going to help a mountain biker?
Well, I can tell you I don't swim and I'm still living.
Yeah. But so it's going to help but the crossover, you know, like how much is road cycling going to help mountain biking? A lot. There's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
And just because you're on your feet, one's hiking, but then hiking for someone who is more like that 5 hour.
That's what they're doing pretty much.
Yeah. So it's going to like, but they're then operating in that zone too. So this was part of it as well. When I went through, I was like, you know, there's enough scientific evidence out there to show, to not be argued that zone 2 is the best bang for buck training. You know, that fat burning aerobic zone, however you want to refer to it, like you can train too easy and you can train too hard, and there's a sweet spot. So then it becomes like when you're running long or riding long, are you going so long that you're too low? And then you're going not long enough that it's too high? And, you know, or just that the overall stress is too high.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
It took me like a day and a half.
Yeah, at least, and you're not done with the article yet, so
no,
it's gonna be a mission. But I think that kind of stuff's helpful for people, especially because everyone's looking for like people just want the answer.
Well, do you know what would be awesome if everyone used running power meters? Because all of this information in terms of like an Ironman, which is a good reference point because it's 180 Ks, it's always 180 Ks kind of thing. You can look at power levels and sustainable power levels and an increase in percentage of someone's power. Like that's how much they increased because they always rode at 200 watts. Their threshold is 250 watts. They can ride at 80% for this long, otherwise they stop. And you can do that uphill, downhill, whatever. And if you try and ride at 200 watts, and for 5 hours, that equals this many stress points. You try and do it for 10 hours, that's too many stress points and doesn't work. There's lots of data on there because it's so objective. It's like, this is how much effort you're putting in.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But then in running, it's like, oh, who knows?
Just because power meters haven't been around long enough.
Yeah. And they're only just getting to the point where they're super accurate as well.
Yeah.
And even then, they're not a direct measure, but they at least still provide a way that we can look. And I just put up a video of looking between a trail run and a road run, because previously, like, where's all this data coming from? Is this a 30% increase in road running or a 20% increase in trail running? And are we just looking at distance? Because I can spend 15 hours running on the trails and run 100 and something Ks, and I can spend the same 15 hours and run like 200 Ks on the road. Just maybe not, but you know.
Yeah.
But then cycling, you have power.
Yeah, powers. You know, that's why everyone needs a power meter. Really.
We're gonna get into one of your most favorite topics, so maybe we should.
No, but I think that is good. And we were talking about this earlier tonight because I got an ad, right?
For Texas chicken.
For Texas chicken, right? So Will and I always talk about like this fried chicken place, Texas chicken, because like, you know, once we get together, we're like, you want to get Texas chicken? He's like, yup. I got an ad for Texas chicken. And I'm not sure like if it was just listening to us. I still think that Google listens to us and Facebook listens to us. But you know, the other possibility is that it just knows that Will and I are together, and that when we're together, you know, we get Texas chicken. Okay, so that's an example showing that how data is used, right? And so our phones tells us that we want Texas chicken. We didn't even know we wanted Texas chicken until we saw that, right? And power meters are kind of the same way. I see them as the same way. Like our data is going somewhere whenever we upload it, like all our data, and we agreed to give that away when we signed up for whatever platform it is. And that data is going to be used to help us get better, right? It's going to give us our Texas chicken when we don't even know we want Texas chicken.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe they're getting closer with, you know, so many people having bike power meters, and they'll get closer once more people have running power meters. They're going to be able to tell you what you want and what you need.
Yeah, and they are, you know, Zwift and Trainer Road and Sufferfest, Strava is a bit of, like, they're able to better interpret your training.
Yeah.
And say like, this is probably what you should do now, and this is what you should do next week. And because, you know, to a point, especially something like Zwift, where it's like a complete online sphere world, you are the human on the other end of the numbers.
Yeah.
Rather kind of thing. So
yeah, with most, so with a lot of things, like computers do a way better job than humans. With a lot, like, you know, calculator, like it's just faster, right? And better. It's not going to make a mistake. Like I might make a mistake doing a longhand calculation or in my head. Training is kind of one of those things where I'm not sure, like it's not there. And because like training, there's no exact science to training. There's still a lot of intuition and application of principles and outside factors when you're working with an athlete that a human coach that knows what they're doing is going to be better than an algorithm. And we get kind of close, and when we make training plans, we make them to kind of work for most people. But I think, you know, when we're working directly with an athlete, we're always going to, at least until training science is perfect, we're going to be better at interpreting the data than a computer.
Yeah.
For at least the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's getting a bit AI on us, but you know, that like that's what they're doing with our data. Like these companies are trying to figure out how to, you know, give us what we need.
Yeah, you can track a certain level, right? Like if this is your 5K time, and the people who ran under 20 minutes did at least this amount of training.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to, and we'll finish on this. We'll finish on the data integrity, like the amount of times heart rate monitors shoot up, and you know, your wrist-based heart rate monitor, where you don't wear it on a super easy ride. Now that data is not included, and now it looks like you only trained hard, or you only trained easy, or it's real, and then it's really hard. It just skews everything. And part of it, and you also have training zones, which I'm a huge fan of, heart rate based training zones. I was just catching up with an athlete on Monday, and they were 1 beat above their zone 2, right, for it was like a 2-hour run, 30 minutes. They were 1 beat above.
Nah, throw it away.
and because I looked at it, I was like, oh, what zone? I was like, Jesus, that's, you know, that's 25% of the time is zone 3, you know, the gray zone, like the no train zone kind of thing. For this aerobic 2-hour run, I was like, wait, they're only 1 beat over. You know, but now that data's there. Like when I'm looking at zone analysis for the week or the month, it's like, well, now I've got like a really skewed percentage.
Yeah, well, zones are great, but they're also not an exact science because they're based on
but that's where you
normative
need
data.
like I looked at that
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
kind of thing. Anyway, Matt, we've probably gone on long enough.
Never long enough, William.
Yeah, I'm sure the listeners might disagree. All right, then. Until next week, Matthew.
We'll see you then.
Awesome. Have a good one.